Okay, so I just watched the Sopranos prequel, Many Saints of Newark, and I gotta say, I liked it a lot. Seeing a lot of reviews saying it's average. I'm not getting that. I don't understand. Let me tell you, and these do have spoilers, so I'll give you about 15 seconds. And I count pretty fast, so here we go. All right, let's talk about the opening. I thought it was really dope the way that they did the graveyard, and you heard the voices from the different people that obviously were dead per gravestone, tombstone, however you want to put that. And then once we get to Chrissy's tombstone, it focuses on his voice, of course, and it kind of gives you an idea what happened to him, why he's there, and then he takes you back to where it all started, which is with his father, Dickie. Um, I knew going into this movie that the movie was not primarily about Tony, but that Tony is in it, and that it's got some backstory there for him. So I never ever thought for a moment that this was a Tony Soprano origin movie, period. Even though it is kind of, but I knew from the get go that it focuses on Dickie. Um, I thought it was really cool to get the backstory on Dickie. It's basically like a Sopranos episode, but a Dickie backstory. Um, the guy that played him, I don't know his name at this point, but he was awesome. Gave me the feeling of the clever wise guy from like the 50s or the 60s or something, even though I believe this is based in the late 60s or early 70s. Um, Cunning, clever, smart, um, not really out there just whacking people. He's making money, he's earning. Um, there is a side plot to it that I've heard in other reviews. They don't understand how it connects um, to those people that are reviewing the movie, making those types of statements. I would say this, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, but it absolutely connects. If you're not into reading history or getting into textbooks, I understand that. I would definitely say check out the movie American Gangster. That'll fill in that blank for you. So I would say if you've never seen Many Saints of Newark yet, watch American Gangster. It'll make a little bit more sense in regards to what's going on with the subplot. Uh, I also have heard from other reviewers. I don't understand why the race riots are in it. Well, it's a backdrop. That's what was going on at the time, and it kind of it did directly affect Dickie's business, right, and ultimately his life. So again, for those not making the connection, read your history books um, or watch a movie that touches on that. Okay, moving on a little bit further. Ray Liotta's character plays Dickie's dad. I thought he was awesome. He plays an old school gangster, I believe Dickie Hollywood Moltisanti, which is really based on a real life gangster from, I believe, like the 30s and the 40s. I forgot his real name, but it was Hollywood something. So that was back before Vegas, I want to say, for those days, just before that, but definitely after the Great Depression. Let's see here. Um, so Ray Liotta, his character, he's typical old head, wise guy. Smacks his wife around, and he pays for that dearly. Dickie doesn't like that very much. Little weirdness. Dickie ends up getting with with his dad's wife, stepmom, and but the way it plays out, it makes sense. It's not like some just like straight up weird ancestral stuff. Watch the movie. She comes over from Italy. I don't want to give too many more details. Um, let's jump into some other base characters. You got the guy playing Silvio. He played him to the T. I've heard some people say he came across um, like a mock character from SNL. I 100% disagree. There were moments that I forgot that I wasn't looking at Steven Van Zandt for a moment, or I wasn't looking at him. I really got confused for a moment. I had to stop myself. The guy that plays Polly Walnuts, he's not in it that much, but his few scenes are pivotal actually. But he does the eye thing. He definitely has the mannerisms and look and the bug eyes, that he gives. Um, what else? Who else? You got Pussy's father in it, which was pretty cool because he looks a lot like Pussy. You got Little Puss, and he did a great job. I love the way he does his slouch too. It's just perfect. Um, let's see here. Uncle June. Um, this guy that plays Uncle June was like his voice. Holy shit! Wow, he sounded just like him. He looked just like him, and he talked just like, and he acted just like him too. And on the show, Uncle June's kind of, I wouldn't say inept, but you could tell he was never really. Even though when the show starts, he's kind of like the head of the family at that time. Like the way they make it out or play it out is like he's not really good at it. He's more of the thinker, I would say, and not the person in charge, not the executioner or the judge. So you see that ineptness come across a lot in this movie. So I think that was pretty awesome. Let's talk about Tony's mom. She was awesome. She was so on point. Again, it was kind of hard to remember that you weren't looking at a younger version. Like you had to remember in your mind that this is an actress playing another actress, another role, because you forget like real quick. That's how good she was. And she's got that condescending, like mean, put you down, all that good stuff. And she kind of looks like Carmela in ways. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but there are parts where she kind of comes across the way she looks, like Carmela, like the way they did her makeup and everything in the Sopranos. So speaking of Carmela, I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to see her in this. She is in it briefly, and the girl barely talks. I don't even know if she actually says a line. I think she does. I think she has like one line. But just in that one moment, man, like she is like Carmela. It's crazy. Um, yeah. So I would give the movie honestly. I know I just watched it, and I'm very honest about movies. I'll say it sucks, even if it's something I've been waiting for it to come out for a long time. But I give this a solid 9. I love the way that it ended. Um, I won't spoil that part. I definitely won't. But the way it ended was amazing. So I hope we either get either a prequel movie, or I'm sorry, a prequel sequel movie, or a mini series. And if it was up to me, if they do it, if they were like, "Hey Sam, how do you want us to do this mini series?" Like straight up, basically The Sopranos before The Sopranos, So it was that good. It really was. And the parts with Tony, um, you see Sweet Tony, which is pretty cool. You kind of had an idea that he was kind of like that before he got into any kind of funny business. I want to say the first half of the movie is not um, Michael Gandolfini. It's another actor playing a younger version of him. So you don't get Michael until he's a teenager. Whew, man, those mannerisms, the way he does his eyes and like looks over and stuff like that, and even like the breathing through the nostril, heavy breathing through the nose type deal. Um, but yeah, you definitely see the seeds for Tony becoming a gangster for sure, and then the very end, you'll get it. It'll click. So again, I love the movie. I think it was great. It had a great feel. I love when there are movies that have like it might be a fictional movie, but it has like a non-fictional time, like during the race riots, right? Or like in Forrest Gump, there was a lot of time period jumping through that movie, but you got JFK and moon landing and stuff like that. So yeah, I give it a 9 for sure. I thought it was really cool how Chrissy narrates for portions of the movie. So I'm trying to think. I feel like I left out stuff. I probably did, but yeah, solid movie. It was worth the wait for sure. And to all the other critics, I think with The Sopranos, the great thing about The Sopranos is to me, it's in my experience and talking to other people, um, everybody has their own perspective, and everybody's perspective is either completely different or a little bit different. People still argue about whether Tony was whacked at the end or not, and even though the director came out and said or slipped up in the last couple of years during a podcast and said that was a death scene, that's basic. That is when Tony dies, right? So that gave like the end all right there. There was no more question for me. It all, and I'm a latecomer to The Sopranos. I won't lie, but so I already knew how it ended. So I can't ever give an honest answer of how I would have felt, when it actually happened, when it was on the air. But I think I would have got it. There's a lot of foreshadowing in that last season, talking about like him and Bobby talking about like when it happens when you do get whacked that you don't know it because you don't hear it, you don't see it because I think the way they explain it, the speed of the bullet is faster than sound, right? So you don't. By the time you're dead, uh, that sound probably happens a split second after. Um, and then there's the part where Sylvia goes to sit down with that wise guy at a really nice restaurant, and that guy gets like whacked completely right in front of Sylvia with blood on his face. It's all in slow motion, so it was definitely a build up. But I did rewatch Sopranos. I will say that there was something really interesting to me going into season one in the very first episode with his very first meeting with Dr. Melfi. He mentions to her about how his father, like, he's talking about how he's reached the heights in which his father has never reached in regards to his career as a mafioso, right? But as good as that is, it'll never be as good as what his father had because of the era in which his father lived for wise guys and mafiosos, right? Because those were the golden days. It was before RICO Act and before you had wise guys ratting on each other left and right and stuff like that, right? So, but he specifically says, and this isn't word for word, but he does say something along the lines of, I get the strangest feeling that I was born into the end of something, right? He's talking about the end of an era, but to me, when I watched it that time, it wasn't just the end of an era. We know, he doesn't know, but we know that he's ending the end of it, the era of his own life as well, right? So, um, I did right before the movie. I watched the very last episode of Sopranos. Just thought it'd be interesting. See if there's anything else I'd pick up. I don't know. My favorite part of that episode is Leotardo. Say bye bye, Pop Pop. Say bye bye, Pop Pop. and then it runs over his head. That was awesome. But it was cool to. I will say this to segue from the death scene of Tony getting whacked to that black screen, to going in fresh into Many Saints of Newark, because you go into Tony dying and a dead Chris Moltisanti narrating from his grave, right? So I don't know. I thought that was perfect. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but if they did, if not, so anyway, this is my Sopranos, Many Saints of Newark. Oh yeah, one last thing. The song at the end was a badass song. That was a badass way to kick off the end of the movie. Um, anyway, this is my review for the Many Saints of Newark.